number 10, we have Handy Manny interrupted by porn. Early on a weekday morning in May 2007, kids in New Jersey, USA were eating their breakfast and watching a Disney Channel show, Handy Manny. Unfortunately, instead of seeing their favorite tool-wielding handyman, they saw, a tool-wielding handyman, but not a very kid-friendly one. Where is he putting that tool? It's the question. That's right, the broadcast was interrupted by hardcore pornography, which must have been pretty terrifying for the kids, but more so for the parents who found their kids watching it. Comcast, the cable network that Handy Manny was airing on, apologized but never commented on how the interference came to be or who was behind it. Coming into number 8, we have Captain Midnight's protest. In 1986, a disgruntled electrical engineer named John McDougall was seriously peed at HBO for their high subscription prices. At the time, it was around $12.95 a month, which is about $30 today. McDougall called himself Captain Midnight and threatened to hijack stations periodically, targeting Showtime next. Coming into number 6, we have Aliens on Southern Television. On November the 26th, 1977, a scary alien voice interrupted a British TV broadcast at 5:10 in the afternoon on ITV. Hijacking the Hannington transmitter, a scary speaker interrupted transmissions for 6 whole minutes. Now, they claimed to be an alien called Virillan from the Intergalactic Association. With a distorted voice, Virillan said that all weapons of mass evil must be removed. He warned that humanity has a short time to learn to live together in peace. The voice implored humanity to remain peaceful so that we could be part of the Great Awakening of the Age of Aquarius. The hijack was vocal only, and later ITV called the hijacker breakthrough in sound. The identity of the hijacker has never been found. Perhaps it was aliens warning us. Coming into number 5, we have an atomic bomb. On a Sunday morning Czech TV show, Panorama, viewers were convinced that the Prague countryside was being bombed. The show is intended to attract tourists and generally shows live footage of idyllic landscapes. On the 17th of June 2007, the signal was cleverly hijacked. What looked like scenes from the usual show broadcast an atomic bomb being detonated over the land. This sent viewers into an absolute panic. Now, government officials were even concerned that Prague was being bombed. It turned out it was an elaborate hoax, but it took a few minutes to realize that. The hoax was actually a performance piece from a group called Zetoven. Coming into number 4, we have news of the zombie apocalypse. In 2013, TV viewers in Montana were stunned when Steve Wilkos' show on KRTV was interrupted by hackers. Pranksters interrupted the show to warn of a zombie apocalypse, saying that bodies of the dead were rising from their graves. They stated that updates would be posted as soon as new information became available. The mayhem happened amid an episode of Wilkos' show about teen cheaters taking a lie detector test. Now, the hack was a voiceover only and warned viewers not to approach the zombies as they're extremely dangerous. Immediately after the hack was taken down, KPTV released a statement. They said the situation was under control and yes, it was just a hack.
Have reported that the bodies of the dead are rising from their graves and attacking the living. Follow the messages on screen that will be updated as information becomes available.
Coming into number 3, we have the first of Max Headroom's appearances. On November the 22nd, 1987, the Chicago 9 o'clock news was interrupted on WGN-TV. Instead of host Dan Ronan discussing the Bears' victory over the Detroit Lions, the audience got a man in a mock news reporter suit wearing a creepy Max Headroom mask with sunglasses and a frozen grin. All audiences could hear was static. All they could see was the maniac moving around as if he was being spanked. Now, it appears the TV signal was hijacked for 30 seconds. When the signal finally made it back to the studio, Ronan nervously laughed. Well, if you're wondering what happened, so am I. On this day, the creepy intruder became an icon. Now, we're building on this at number 2. That's right, coming in at number 2, we have the first time that Max Headroom speaks. Later, the same hijacker interrupted an episode of Doctor Who for around 90 seconds. In the secondary hijack, the plot thickened even further. This man got even creepier. The first hijack had no audio, but the second was a rant. The creepy hijacker spouted about Coca-Cola, Chuck Swirsky, and a dirty glove. After some weird lunging at the camera and head swishing and singing, the hijacker's bare bottom is spanked by an off-camera French maid. Making the whole saga even weirder, over 30 years later, we still have no idea who is responsible for the hijacking. Finally, most terrifying of all, because the threats were actually founded in reality, we have a very real declaration of war. In July 2006, Lebanese fighters fired shots over the Israeli border. This led to a 34-day war in which Israel retaliated hard. Israeli hackers took control of the Islamic Lebanese political party Hezbollah's TV station. They sent out a very chilling message of war. The hijacked signals started showing images of dead Hezbollah guerrilla soldiers. An image of the political party leader Hassan Nasrallah was then shown, along with the sound of gunshots and a voice saying, "Your day is coming."
Starting off at number 10 now, we have the Wyoming incident. According to internet legend, this was a broadcast hack that happened in 2008, affecting a number of communities in the town of Niobrara in Wyoming. Their regular news show was interrupted with this.
Preparation for the 2008 general election. Republican President Jackson.
Over the next 6 minutes or so, viewers were shown text messages and strange visuals with audio snippets playing over them. Every 10 to 15 seconds a message would appear announcing that this was a special presentation. The text would say things like, "You will see such pretty things," and "You are ill, we just want to fix you," and "What hides in your mind?" Now that last question was later answered with the chilling message of, "We have already seen it." What was even stranger was that people reported having a physical reaction to the footage. This included vomiting, hallucinations, and headaches. Others said that the frequencies played made viewers' eyeballs vibrate and create visual hallucinations. I'm glad we didn't show the whole clip then. Coming in at the number 8 spot now, we have Vrillon. This is a strange one from 1977. During a regular news show on Southern television, there was a broadcast interruption just after 5 PM on November 27th. After some static and visual warping, a voice made this announcement.
This is the voice of Vrillon, representative of the Ashtar Galactic Command, speaking to you.
That person, calling themselves Vrillon, claimed to be an alien commander from an intergalactic association. The disembodied voice spoke for about 6 minutes. The main message was a warning to all humans to put down our weapons of war and to enter a new age of Aquarius. Then, and only then, would we make it to the next level of evolution.
Suck your energy from you, the energy you call money, and we'll put it to evil areas, giving you worthless dross in return.
Moving on to number 7 now, we have Playboy. I'm sure I don't need to explain to you guys what Playboy is, and if I do, I probably shouldn't. Needless to say, its late night TV shows have been very popular for many years. It's one of those channels where you wouldn't expect to see much religious talk, shall we say. However, that's exactly what you would have seen if you tuned into the channel on September 6, 1987. Someone interrupted the broadcast that night and displayed a quote from the Bible. I wonder how that went down with the Playboy viewers. The Bible verses were taken from Exodus and Matthew and read, "Thus saith the Lord thy God, remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. Repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand." The white text and black background appeared during a movie that Playboy had on called Three Daughters, and a number of viewers phoned in to ask what was going on. Police were able to trace the signal though, and 3 years later a man called Thomas Haney was identified as the culprit. Moving on to number 2 now, we have Mayday. On January 3rd, 2007, Channel 7 in Australia was airing a Canadian documentary called Mayday, which features cases of air disasters. At some point during the broadcast, things got strange. The visuals continued as normal, but the audio started repeating a single phrase on a loop. One quick-thinking YouTuber uploaded this video of the event. Many people think that the voice is that of a man from America's deep south saying the phrase, "Jesus Christ, help us all, Lord." See what you think. That went on for an astonishing 6 minutes before everything returned to normal. Many people wanted answers, but Channel 7 were very evasive. They denied that there had been an intrusion, but also disputed what the clip was actually saying. They claimed the voice said, "Jesus Christ, one of the Nazarenes." The fact that so many people disagree with that has only added fuel to the fire that something very strange happened that day. And finally, number 1 now, we have Coast to Coast AM. That's the name of this talk show run by Art Bell. He was used to strange calls on his show, but things got even stranger on September 12, 1997. That night, Art got a call from a guy who claimed to have been an employee at the mysterious Area 51 base, where conspiracy theorists say the US Air Force contained and studied aliens and their crashed spacecraft. The caller sounded terrified and claimed that they were coming for him and that he didn't have much time to share with the world what he knew about Area 51. He talked about extra-dimensional beings who are not what they appear to be, that they have infiltrated the US military and are now taking over.
Okay, what we're thinking of as aliens are they're extra-dimensional beings.
The caller began to sound more erratic and panicked. Finally, he started talking about how governments are trying to get human populations down to a manageable number so that they're easier to control. Just after this, the line went dead when the power cut out at the station. By the time they got the backup generators running, the caller was gone. Conspiracy theorists say that it was more than a coincidence that the caller was cut off and never heard from again just when he began to spill the beans on secret government activity. What do you guys think?
Good old hacktivation station. I think hacktivist is my favourite word of this century. In 2015, Anonymous, known for their creepy smiling Guy Fawkes masks and altered voices, took over a live Fox News broadcast. Now, Fox News was conducting a euthanasia interview when Anonymous took over. Now, they started by saying, "Dear Fox News, it has come to our attention that you have been alienating the American people by propagating the left-right." They continued by berating Fox for purposefully scaring people about terrorism and covering up corporate corruption. Anonymous said, "You have sacrificed your journalistic integrity for the dollar." They end by saying Fox have been poisoning the minds of America for too long. Anonymous does not forgive, Anonymous does not forget. Scary. Honestly, I don't know if I like Anonymous or not, but their masks do freak me out. The mystery here to me lies in who Anonymous really are. We just don't know yet. And also, how can they take down such a big and powerful station like Fox? Okay, a little mid-list urban legend for you. Coming in at number 5, we have Baby Ogre at Midnight.
It's a fine day, people open windows, they leave their houses just for a short while.
So the Baby Ogre commercial is a Japanese ad for Kleenex, which sure is weird. The story goes that the commercial was hijacked by a curse, and after it aired in 1986, everyone involved died or met some kind of horrible luck. For example, the woman who was supposed to have birthed a demon baby in the advert died after actually giving birth in real life. Further urban legends say that if you watch the commercial at midnight, the footage will be interrupted and will warp in front of your very eyes, and you too will become a victim of the curse. Some people in the YouTube comment section for this video say that they have seen the commercial at midnight and it was interrupted and they are cursed, so watch out, I guess. Coming in at number 3, we have the Winkers song. In June and July 2017, a UK local radio station, Mansfield 103.2 FM, had its signal interrupted 8 times throughout June and July 2017 with an indecent piece of music called the Winker Song by Ivor Biggin and the Red-Nosed Burglars. Back in the day, this song was banned from the radio because it is very blatantly about masturbation. I actually listened to this whole song while scripting this video, and it is pretty great and absolutely not appropriate. Anyone with a love of seedy British humour, please do have a listen. The last 20 seconds are what I would describe as pure magic. So what this frequent interruption means, it's hard to say, but clearly it's a symbol of anarchy. The perpetrator has never been identified, and honestly, I kind of think long may they reign. I'm so bad, I'm so naughty. Giggling away at the interruptions.
At number 9, we have the Backwards Music Station. If you're walking around America or even parts of Europe and you start using a shortwave radio, then you might come in contact with the Backwards Music Station. It is something that will cut into your radio signal and will send some tones that might make the hair on the back of your neck stand on end. Here's a clip for you to check out. sounds like some sort of garbled alien language, and even though it has been famously called the backwards music station, this radio frequency that has the tendency to interrupt your use of a shortwave radio doesn't play any music at all. It has also been called the whale call station as some way to explain some of the strange noises that will come through the radio you are using. The signals that are coming through are most likely frequency interferences from American naval bases. The American military has yet to confirm this, but it seems like the most logical answer unless there are actually aliens waiting to invade Earth and they're just taunting us through radios. At number 8 we have radio hijacker. I didn't even know this was a possible thing that could happen, but did you know that you can tap into radio frequencies that the police, firemen, and paramedics are using? I don't know why you would want to do this, but it's available to you if you want to get into something like that. It all started happening in Georgia back in 2019. Police officers in Cherokee, Georgia started to get harassed by an unknown dude who wanted to annoy the cops in the area.
A hamburger and a milkshake, please.
Not what you typically hear over a police radio, but this man's voice has become quite common on the Cherokee County Sheriff's, Fire, and EMS radio frequencies.
Over a 3-week period, this guy chimed in to annoy the police over 50 times. He would say things like ask them if they needed donuts, he would make fast food orders, and he would also block out their ability to talk with dial tones. This is very dangerous because the police and paramedics and firefighters cannot talk to each other. And this could lead to people dying. So if you know how to do this, just don't do it. It's rude. At number 7 we have radio atención. There have been a number of unexplained radio signals that have come through in the past. This one being a very creepy signal that you can still tap into to this day. If you live somewhere in the southern eastern states of America, you might have already heard of radio atención. It's a radio station where you can hear a woman say the words atención, and then she reads out a series of numbers. Now this radio station is already creepy, but the interruption that made it very creepy is the Radio Havana signal that came through. Why would this make it more creepy? Well, people speculated that the reason you could hear the Radio Havana signal is because this mysterious station was coming from Cuba and it was being used as a way to contact Cuban spies in America. I don't know about you, but espionage always freaks me out a little bit. Your best friend could be a sleeper agent and you wouldn't even know. Next up we have the US State Department KKN50. Here's more transmissions from a secret government signal that have leaked into the regular radio transmissions. I know for the most part these transmissions are just probably meaningless, but they always scare me because who knows what kind of information could be being sent or hidden from us at any time. Now, signals from this station have not been heard for a long time. The last one that leaked through was recorded back in 1997. The exact location of this base that was sending out these signals has never been unveiled, but it's believed that it was the Warrington Training Facility in Marshall, Virginia. Now, what was the purpose of this place? Well, the CIA used it to send out codes. There would be a series of numbers and letters that no one has ever been able to decipher, and frankly, no one probably ever will because it is top secret. Alright, up next we have the old tapes. Since podcasts have taken over, we don't have the same popularity with people just hanging out and listening to the radio. This used to be a big thing, but why wait for music when you can listen to the same song on repeat 20 times on Spotify? It's my favorite way to listen to music. That is the good stuff. Well, the old tapes come from an old time, and it was posted on 4chan a few years ago, and the person who posted it said they were listening to the radio in 1995, and out of nowhere they were listening to music, and then it was interrupted by this broadcast that gave them chills. They were listening to the radio to record songs because that was the original pirating. Back then you really had to work for it if you wanted to steal music. Because they were trying to make the most awesome mixtape you could imagine, they were able to capture this strange broadcast that interrupted, and this is what they were listening to. Let's have a listen to this little clip. This clip goes on like that, which seems like a woman reading out several obituaries and a strange tone that plays that sounds like a high-pitched squealing. The recording has never been explained, but it definitely creeps me out. The Swedish Rhapsody Station. Following that, we have the Swedish Rhapsody station. This is another station that might have been transferring spy information. It shouldn't be a surprise that there are many of these stations. Every country on the planet has spies, and that means every country on the planet needs to talk to those spies. Well, I think every country on the planet has spies. I don't know who has spies and who doesn't, because they're spies. Well, even though this station was called the Swedish Rhapsody station, it was actually coming from Germany. People started picking up the signal randomly on their radios in the 70s, and the last known contact with this station came out in 1988. Since then, the station has only been a myth, but it would play the song Swedish Rhapsody and then be followed with a bunch of numbers and other information. The numbers would come out in different groupings, much like the other numbered stations that we have on this list. And also like those other numbered stations, this one has never been decoded. Okay, now we got a good phone call interruption for you guys. Our next one is the Art Bell talk show. In 1997, Art Bell was a semi-famous radio host who would like to dip into the creepy and conspiratory. He was a little bit obsessed with what was going on at the secret military base known as Area 51. He had to know what the American government was doing there, so he invited people who used to work there to call in. That's when he got this call.
They have infiltrated a lot of aspects of the military establishment, particularly the Area 51.
The guy on the phone claims to be a former employee of Area 51, and he continues to say that there are extra-dimensional beings that we understand as aliens who have come to Earth and are looking to wipe out the major population centers so they can control the world. They will attack major cities and then enslave the rest. Then the signal for the call is lost. You can be the judge on whether or not you think it's real. After that, we have Brenda Cook and Barbara Macbeth's recordings. Radio recordings is a tool that many ghost hunters will try and use to contact the other side. For some reason, ghosts pick up super well on radios. These two ghost investigators were looking through an abandoned mental hospital, and they were using a radio recording device to try and see if they could contact anyone from the other side. While venturing through, they managed to pick up this. That is just one of the many voices that these two captured while they were walking through the building. Many of them are extremely creepy and threatening. Some of the ghosts are like, "I want to kill you," which is like, "Hey, good luck, you're a ghost, dude." At number 9, we have Loony Larry. You thought the only time kids would be safe was while they're watching cartoons. It turns out kids are never safe, thanks global warming. But there was a broadcast that was hacked in Wisconsin. A bunch of kids were just hanging out watching SpongeBob. Well, if it was SpongeBob, it was probably a bunch of kids and some college students as well. But out of nowhere, the show was switched to this dude who called himself Loony Larry.
Hi, this is Loony Larry. Welcome to my show, and
The clip goes on like that, and Larry does some pretty strange stuff like breaking SpongeBob records in this creepy basement and saying some pretty controversial things that I won't repeat here. At number 8, we have Disney Channel porn. This story is so cliche it almost seems like it would never happen outside of a movie, but here we are. There was one sunny morning where a bunch of kids were sitting around watching the Disney Channel, probably while their parents were getting stuff ready so they could go to school. And then some hardcore porn got laid over the broadcast. It was 2007 in New Jersey, and a bunch of kids who were watching a show called Handy Manny stopped seeing a young boy living out his dreams of carpentry and instead saw something that is only saved for mommies and daddies who love each other. Comcast was the cable network that caused the mix-up, but they never said why they screwed up so royally. They just used the Shaggy method and said, "It wasn't me." At number 7, we have Fight for Freedom. Not all of the TV interruptions have to be perverted or weird to be scary. Some of them can be totally for a good cause, but they will scare the crap out of you because you have no idea what that means for your country, and it could mean that it's time for a revolution, and revolutions are always terrifying because people will just start dying. In the city of Torun in Poland, a broadcast got stolen in 1985. Why? Because 4 very important people in the Polish science community had a message for the people. They wanted everyone to boycott the upcoming election. They were tired of how the government had been taking from the people and demanded that the people rise up against them. The police were able to trace the signal back to these 4 men, but because of civil unrest and fear of a revolution, they didn't arrest them but only fined them. Yeah, public officials start to be real nice when the walls are closing in on them. At number 6, we have a porn reversal. I don't know if you guys remember Playboy television or even Playboy, but back in the day people used to have to watch porn on TV. You didn't get to search everything based on very specific perversions that you have deep inside your brain. No, you had to sit down and watch the Playboy channel or another channel like that, and it would be porn all day long. And one day in 1987 there was a broadcast that got interrupted by a bunch of scary text. It said, "Thus saith the Lord thy God, remember the Sabbath and keep it holy. Repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand." Yes, it was religious text. See, it's not just porn that can interrupt something wholesome. You can also interrupt porn with something pure, and it's totally jarring. The police eventually tracked this guy down, and this wasn't the only time he had done something like this. And this was all pre-internet era. This guy probably is disgusted by the way the world is now. If you can handle the Playboy channel, woo! At number 5 we have C-SPAN meets Russia. A lot of people tune into C-SPAN to get their daily dose of news, and there was one day in 2017 when everything was going as normal. There was a bunch of people in suits talking about the budget and deficit and Congress, and then out of nowhere it stopped being about boring politics, and then it was just a boring Russian talk show. Everyone was like, what is happening? And this didn't just pop up for a few seconds and then disappear. It was on the screen for 10 minutes. That's a long time to have interference with a Russian signal. Now, why is this on a list of top 10 scary TV interruptions? Well, that's because a lot of people think this was Russia testing their ability to hijack American television signals, and it was extremely successful if that's what it was. That means they could still be doing this but not switching our programming, but grabbing our data. Stay away from my data, Russia. No one needs to know what my data is except for Instagram so they can give me better ads. Yeah, I want the good ads. Discount Steam games and gaming accessories. See, that's how you get the good ones. At number 2 we have threats against the Hezbollah. In 2006 the Israel-Lebanon war was reaching new heights. As the old saying goes, all is fair in love and war. Israel wanted to find more ways to attack Lebanon outside of just explosives and bullets. The Hezbollah was a group that was very much the spearhead in the war against Israel, and they had a television channel known as Al-Manar TV. This is how a lot of people in Lebanon would get political information and updates on the war. Well, Israel found a way to hijack this signal and send a very threatening signal to all the people in Lebanon. They showed the leader of the Hezbollah with a crosshair over his face and the message, "Your time will come." If you're at home watching that channel for the news and then you see this would be so terrifying. You wouldn't be able to fall asleep after that. And for our number 1 spot we have Christine Chubbuck. One of the most shocking things to ever happen on television. It changed news, it changed broadcasting, and it changed the world. Christine Chubbuck was a news anchor and her life wasn't moving exactly as she wanted. She was constantly battling against the different parts of her life. She wanted to bring interesting, wholesome news stories into the news, but that's not what got views. It was salacious death and terror that people wanted to watch, so her bosses were pushing her to find those kinds of stories. Her love life wasn't exactly what she wanted either. It's believed that at 30 years old, Christine had never been physically intimate with anyone. With that plus a few other factors stacked on top of her, like her inability to have children, she was dipping into a very depressed state. Because of all this, on July 15th, 1974, she walked into the studio, started a live broadcast, and then committed suicide on live television. People originally thought it was a prank. It wasn't until the story was in newspapers that everyone knew it was real.
In our number 9 spot today we have the BBC. So for this one we have to be on the same page on what a numbers station is. Basically they are shortwave radio stations, and the transmissions or broadcasts are usually certain numbers or other repetitive things which are believed to be aimed to address intelligence officers who are operating in foreign countries. So for this story we're taking it back to 1983 when the BBC, yes, the British Broadcasting Corporation, received a letter from a listener they had in Andorra. This listener had written into the World Service Waveguide program to complain that during her attempt at listening she was interrupted by a female voice that was reading out numbers in English, and she wanted to know what this interference was. While the corporation gave a regular, non-sinister answer to the confused woman, after more research was done into the case, people aren't quite convinced. Many people who know much more about these things and recognize the patterns seen in numbers stations are fairly certain that this interruption was a numbers station that was being broadcast on a random frequency that just happened to intercept with this woman's BBC program. In our number 8 spot today we have Southern Television. Back in November of 1977, residents of England who were watching the Southern Television broadcast were in for quite an eerie interruption. One peculiar evening, the night's news got interrupted and warped before the newscaster's voice was replaced by one that claimed to represent sent, quote, Ashtar Galactic Command. This voice explained that it was sending a message down to humanity, and the main point of the message was to tell humans to put down their weapons. This went on for about 6 minutes, and they claimed that our planet was in a new age, the age of Aquarius. Whoever this interruption came from must have just watched Hair or something. This new age, however, it was said that it could only be realized if, quote, rulers are made aware of the evil forces that can overshadow their judgments. The voice continued and finished off with, quote, may you be blessed by the supreme love and truth of the cosmos, and then the interruption was done. While this sure was a strange moment in time, viewers still have no idea who was responsible for this broadcast interruption. In our number 7 spot today, we have the Duga radar. So for this one, we are talking about a huge missile defense radio structure called Duga 3. This structure is suspected of having been wildly over budget, and it was the source of many complaints after it was built. The systems were extremely powerful and broadcast in shortwave radio bands. They would appear without warning, and it sounded like a sharp repetitive tapping noise, and they would disrupt things like legitimate broadcasts, amateur radio, commercial aviation communications, and utility transmissions, which all led to there being international complaints. And at the time, people didn't know what it was. This led people to think that this signal was actually being used for things like Soviet mind control or weather control experiments. In our number 5 spot today, we have the Channel 7 interruption. This strange and eerie interruption took place in 2007 during the airing of the documentary Mayday Head-On Collision, which was airing on Australia's Channel 7. Basically, the audio in the documentary was replaced by a looped voice message of an American saying, quote, Jesus Christ, help us all, Lord, fuck. I'd say that's a pretty terrifying message to hear when you're just tuning into a documentary. Authorities may have found a true explanation for this one, but it doesn't seem to have been released publicly. Apparently the network just brushed it off, calling it a technical glitch due to an audio problem, but a lot of the people who witnessed it aren't so convinced. After the incident, there were hundreds of concerned Australians calling into the network looking for some kind of answers as to what exactly happened here and what they had all just watched. In our number 4 spot today, we have the Steve Wilkos interruption. About a decade ago, residents of a Montana suburb who were just chillin', relaxing, and watching an episode of the Steve Wilkos show were in for a rude interruption. During the broadcast, there was suddenly an emergency crawling across the screen. It claimed that the dead had risen from their graves and they were now roaming the streets, attacking the living. Yes, we are talking about a good old zombie apocalypse. The emergency alert claimed that people shouldn't try to apprehend the undead as they were dangerous individuals. Of course, we all know now that this was a hoax and that the town's emergency broadcasting system had been hacked by some unnamed source. This, however, wasn't the only one. Soon there were emergency broadcasts happening all over towns in Michigan with a similar story. One even interrupted Barney, of all programs. 2 of the stations at the time claimed that they tracked the hack overseas, but there hasn't been much word on anything else surrounding that. In our number 3 spot today, we have UVB 76. The sound apparently began to happen in the 1980s when a radio tower just north of Moscow began transmitting a random and seemingly bizarre assortment of beeps, but in 1992 the sound began to change. In that year, it suddenly switched to a buzzing sort of sound that would last about a second, and this sound would occur somewhere between 21 and 34 times every minute. This strange routine would be interrupted once every few weeks by a male voice, which would then be reciting a string of numbers and works, mostly Russian sounding names like Anna and Nikolai. The buzzing wasn't necessarily always exactly the same, as the tone would switch and there would be different intervals between the buzzes, but one thing that was always consistent is that every hour on the hour, the station would have 2 quick consecutive buzzes. To make things stranger, in June of 2010 and also in August of that year, the station briefly stopped sending out signals despite it having been constantly for years and years. At the end of August in 2010, the station again changed and there began to be different shuffling sounds and thuds that could be heard in the background, and often little snippets of the dance of the little swans from Swan Lake would also interrupt the broadcast. While we obviously know that these sounds are coming from a radio broadcast and we can can make out some of the sounds we're hearing, we have absolutely no idea what purpose they serve, where they are coming from, or what they mean. Right now, the best guess is that these are secret messages that are being transmitted to secret agents, and if that's the case, it's likely that we'll never know exactly what is being discussed in these broadcasts. In our number 1 spot today, we have the government spy. For this one, we are taking a bit of a turn and talking about someone who used secret signals and transmissions in order to spy on the US for Cuba, and no, they did not stay anonymous, of course. Ana Montez is a former American senior analyst at the Defense Intelligence Agency, and for 17 years she used encrypted messages to receive information and communicate with the Cuban government in order to spy on the United States. In the charging documents, American federal prosecutors said, quote, Montez communicated with the Cuban intelligence service through encrypted messages and received her instructions through shortwave encrypted transmissions from Cuba. In addition, Montez communicated by coded numeric pager messages with the Cuban intelligence service by public telephones located in the District of Columbia and Maryland. The codes included "I received message" or "danger." Ana was arrested by the FBI at her office on September 21st, 2001, and part of the reason why is because she apparently had classified information on the US military's pending invasion of Afghanistan, and people were worried that she might go on to further reveal this information. While Ana pleaded guilty to her crimes, which could have even carried a death sentence, she received 25 years, and her tentative release date is actually January 8th, 2023.